Right now, without feeling a single thing, your skeleton is quietly rebuilding itself bone by bone. You are tearing through space faster than any jet ever built, and $200 a month is about to do something to your bank account that sounds almost illegal. 8 real numbers, from your own cells to the bottom of the ocean, sound completely made up until you check the actual math, and the very last one secretly connects 2 of them together. Don't swipe. This loops right back to this exact moment, and it hits differently the second time. Number 1. What $200 a month quietly becomes. $200 a month sounds almost too small to matter. It's less than a weekly grocery run for a lot of people. But invest that same $200 every single month and let it sit in the stock market at its long-run historical average return of around 8% a year, and something strange starts to happen. The money starts making money of its own, and that new money starts making money too, and stick around. This same number reappears in the final seconds, bigger than you guess. 10 years in, you'd have contributed $24,000 total, and your balance would already be worth around $36,000. Keep going, though. 20 years in, that same $200 habit is worth over $117,000, nearly 5 times what you actually paid in. 40 years in, a full working lifetime, it's worth almost $700,000. And here's the part that sounds fake. You only ever contributed $96,000 of your own money. The other $600,000 was built entirely by compound interest, quietly, in the background, without you doing anything differently. Number 2. How much water a single tree moves every day. A single mature tree is, in a very real sense, a water pump. Through a process called transpiration, it pulls water up from the soil through its roots and releases it into the air as vapor through tiny pores in its leaves. A large tree can move tens of gallons of water this way in a single day, completely invisible to anyone standing underneath it. Multiply that by an entire forest, millions of trees all transpiring at once, and the effect stops being small. A forest doesn't just sit there receiving whatever rain happens to fall on it. It actively pumps moisture back into the sky, helping to seed the very clouds that form above it. Some of that recycled moisture travels hundreds of miles downwind before it finally falls again, as rain, feeding forests, farms, and rivers that never had any direct contact with the tree it came from. Clear enough of the forest, and you don't just lose trees, you can lose the rainfall system they were quietly running. Number 3. What really happens when a raise pushes you into a higher tax bracket? Picture your income filling a stack of buckets from the bottom up, one bucket at a time. Say the brackets, just for the sake of an example, look like this. The first $10,000 you earn is taxed at only 10%, regardless of how much you make overall. The next $30,000, everything from $10,000 up to $40,000, gets taxed at 12% instead. Notice what's happening. Only that new slice moves to the higher rate. The first bucket keeps its original 10% rate the whole time. Anything above $40,000, up to our example income of $50,000, lands in the top bracket at 22%. That's the rate people usually panic about when they hear they've been bumped into a higher bracket, but it only ever applies to this last $10,000 slice. Add every bucket together. 10% of the first slice, 12% of the second, 22% of the third, and on this $50,000 example income, the total tax bill comes out to $6,800. Divide that $6,800 by your $50,000 income, and your effective tax rate comes out to about 14%, nowhere close to the 22% top bracket number that tends to scare people the most. The higher rate only ever touched a slice of the income, never the whole paycheck. Number 4. Brace yourself. How fast you're actually moving. Right now, sitting still, reading these words, you feel like the calmest, most motionless object around. You are not even close. 4 separate motions are stacking on top of each other underneath you at this exact second, and every one of them is carrying you along for the ride. Earth is spinning on its axis, and depending where you're standing, That alone can carry you at over 1,600 kilometers an hour, faster than a commercial passenger jet, just from standing still on the ground. On top of that, the whole planet is orbiting the sun, racing through space at roughly 107,000 kilometers per hour, more than 60 times faster than the passenger jet we just mentioned. Add in the sun's own slow orbit around the center of the Milky Way, and the galaxy's own motion through the wider universe on top of that, and it all stacks into something enormous. Right now, without feeling a single bit of it, you are moving at over 2 million kilometers an hour. Number 5. The ocean loop that takes 1,000 years to finish. Beneath the surface, the world's oceans aren't separate bodies of water at all. They're linked by one enormous, slow-moving current, often called the global ocean conveyor belt, driven by differences in temperature and salt content, and it carries water and heat all the way around the planet. A single drop of water caught up in that current can take roughly 1,000 years to complete just one full loop of the journey, sinking near the poles, creeping along the ocean floor, and finally resurfacing an entire ocean away from where it started. That slow, 1,000-year cycle isn't just a curiosity. It helps redistribute heat around the entire globe, shaping regional weather and climate everywhere it passes, a conveyor belt running quietly beneath every wave you've ever seen, on a timescale longer than most civilizations have existed. Number 6. How much of you is being rebuilt right now? You are not quite the same you from a few years ago, and that's not a metaphor. Almost every cell in your body eventually gets replaced with a brand new one, each type running on its own particular schedule. Your body is estimated to produce around 330 billion new cells every single day, just to keep itself running and repair the ordinary wear and tear of simply being alive. Your stomach lining is rebuilt from scratch roughly every 5 days, because it's constantly being worn down by the very acid your own stomach uses to digest food. Even your skeleton isn't as permanent as it looks. Bone tissue is constantly being broken down and rebuilt in the background, and over roughly a decade, almost your entire skeleton has been quietly replaced without you ever noticing. Number 7. The shortcut behind how fast money doubles. There's a rough shortcut for figuring out how long money takes to double, called the Rule of 72. Just divide 72 by your annual rate of return, and the answer is roughly how many years it takes for that amount to double. At a steady 7% return, 72 divided by 7 works out to about 10 years. Start with $10,000 at that same 7% return, and in about 10 years, without adding another dollar, it doubles to $20,000. Leave that $20,000 alone for another 10 years at the same rate, and the exact same doubling happens all over again, because compounding doesn't care how large the number already is. $40,000 from a single $10,000 start, purely from doubling twice over 20 years. No extra deposits, no lucky picks, just time, a steady return, and a shortcut simple enough to do in your head. Number 8. How much of your plate depends on a single insect? Roughly 1 in 3 bites of food you eat exists because a pollinator, most often a bee, visited a flower first and carried its pollen to another. Apples, almonds, coffee, and countless other crops depend on that one small transaction happening billions of times over. A single bee can visit several thousand flowers in just one day, moving from bloom to bloom without ever being asked, trained, or paid to do it, simply following the pull of nectar and pollen. Wind-pollinated staple crops like wheat, rice, and corn don't need bees at all, so a total loss of pollinators wouldn't mean total starvation. But it would mean losing a huge share of the fruits, nuts, and vegetables that make up a genuinely varied diet, all because of one quiet insect most people never think twice about. Marginal tax brackets that only ever tax the slice they apply to. Tens of gallons of water lifted by a single tree every single day. 1,000-year loop of ocean water moving silently beneath every wave you've ever seen. Hundreds of billions of your own cells rebuilt before you even finish this sentence. A shortcut simple enough to double your money in your head. One quiet insect propping up a third of everything on your plate. And somehow, none of that beats the two facts that started this. $200 a month quietly turning into a small fortune, and you, sitting perfectly still, actually tearing through space at 2 million kilometers an hour. Zero exaggeration. So which of these 8